Unveiled. How one incredible secret from a staff member transformed a billionaire's life forever. Emily Johnson felt the sharp edges of the world pressing in on her. Trapped in the silver-spun, glimmering confines of Jack Hartman's office, she teetered on the edge of a life crafted by someone else's ambition. Each day she scurried through the endless schedules, emails, and demands of a billionaire wrapped in his own fame and riches. But with every task completed, her dreams faded further into the background, smothered by Jack's restless pursuit of success. She yearned for something beyond loyalty, something that would finally etch her name in the annals of innovation. As she sifted through her grandmother's attic on a rare day off, an unexpected sensation jolted her. Dust motes danced in the light like whispers of forgotten stories. In the far corner, she spotted a rickety crate, half hidden beneath aged blankets. To her disbelief, it contained her late grandfather's research on artificial intelligence, groundbreaking work that had first hinted at what would one day become the lifeblood of the tech industry. A swell of warmth enveloped her, battling the chill of dread creeping up her spine. This discovery, could it change her life? With her heart racing, she felt the pull of ambition clash with the heavy weight of familial loyalty. Bringing this research to Jack could shine a light on her talents, but at what cost? Clenching the yellowed papers in her hands, Emily fought an internal war. Jack's kingdom of power thrived on obliterating anyone who veered too close to the spotlight. What if her revelation ignited jealousy? What if it meant losing everything she had sacrificed for him? Memories of her grandmother's steadfast belief in working hard for family flickered like shadows behind her eyes. Could she betray that legacy for a chance to step out of the shadows? Or would it mean betraying Jack, the person she had dedicated so much of herself to? Before she could bottle her thoughts, a declaration clawed its way out. She couldn't stay quiet. "Jack, I have something important," she began, but doubt halted her words the moment his team fixed their skeptical gazes on her. Less than a second had passed before mock concern enveloped the room. Their laughter curled around Emily's resolve like steel bands, tightening with every whisper. Behind their polished expressions, she felt their skepticism souring into something darker, a threat. As coiled ambition crept under her skin, she was caught between drowning in their doubt or rising through the very innovation she was afraid to share. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she stood in the polished boardroom filled with titans, her grandfather's research felt like a double-edged sword. The air reeked of self-preservation, mingling with the smell of defeat bubbling at the edges of her heart. Their polished facades masked only the greed and fears of those who said they believed in innovation. Panic beat at her temples while she presented her grandfather's legacy to a sea of critical faces. The silence that followed menaced like a thunderstorm rolling in. This moment, this crossroads of dreams, potential, and dread, felt like the last thread of hope. Her future seemed to dangle over that precipice. Would Jack rise to the challenge and help revamp not just their lives, but the industry as well? Or would she find herself back in obscurity, watching from the sidelines, haunted by a decision she dared to make? Emily stood at the edge of uncertainty, her heart racing as the murmurs of doubt danced around her like specters. Everything she had sacrificed for Jack Hartman, her loyalty, her own aspirations, hung precariously in the air. She sensed the condescension from the boardroom, the weight of their skepticism pressing down on her. They whispered like wolves, eyes glinting with opportunistic hunger, dismissing her share of a legacy with flippant amusement. "Are you seriously suggesting we take a step back?" Jack finally spoke, his voice dripping with incredulity. The disappointment in his tone struck her like a slap. She could feel her palms growing slick, her resolve wavering. Yet beneath that wave of anxiety surged a spark, a necessity to assert herself, to rise from the shadows of Jack's ambitions. "Yes, but think about it. This could revolutionize our technology," Emily replied, her own voice cracking as she fought to push through the gauntlet of disapproval around her. My grandfather envisioned a system that could evolve and adapt beyond current limits. We could lead the market instead of trailing behind. Jack's brow furrowed and she watched as he weighed her words. The flicker of interest in his eyes was fleeting, quickly overshadowed by the noise of his inner circle poking holes in her idea. The laughter echoed back, cutting deeper. She had underestimated their willingness to crop her ambition at the roots in favor of self-preservation. In that moment, something shifted within her. At what point had she relinquished her own voice, her own ambition, to accommodate the dreams of another man? That question gnawed at the edges of her determination. She had spent years sacrificing her input for the sake of Jack's empire, yet here she was, standing alone, presenting a part of herself that had long been dormant. Perhaps we can reframe the strategy, Emily forged ahead, the steel in her voice surprising even herself. Instead of using existing methods, let's explore new avenues. This project isn't just about technology, it's about pioneering a new era. Jack's gaze intensified, challenging her audacity. And what does that entail exactly? More uncertainty. His sarcasm was a blade she felt keenly, but it only stoked the fire within her. Yes, uncertainty. But think about the possibilities. If we fail magnificently, we could emerge stronger. Isn't that what the best innovators do? The room was silent again, but this time the air crackled with a tense awareness. She was no longer just an assistant, she was carving her space in the narrative. And as whispers subsided, the realization dawned on Emily that perhaps her fears were justified, but they paled in comparison to her desire for growth. With her grandfather's research cradled in her mind, she felt a gravitational pull, an urge to not just offer suggestions but to demand a role in shaping the future. Jack's face softened, and for a split second she saw the vision of a partner, someone willing to transcend the limits they had both accepted for far too long. But doubt quickly clouded his expression again, and she could sense the pressure from the others stifling his instinct to trust. Let me take this research home, Jack. I'll develop a proposal that incorporates your vision with this breakthrough, Emily said, determination laced through her words. We can follow a path that's never been paved. Together. A fleeting smile, then skepticism returned. You think this will change everything? I think it can change us, she whispered, her heart pounding with renewed conviction. With that, she turned to the door and started toward freedom, her mind racing with both the excitement of potential and trepidation of backlash. The reality of emerging from the background gnawed at her. Had she put enough on the line? As she crossed the threshold, she glanced back. Jack stood in their boardroom contemplating her words, an uncharted territory not just for their business, but for herself. Would he rise to support her, or would he squash her nascent ambition beneath his endless empire? The stakes had never felt higher. Can she wield her grandfather's legacy as a weapon for change, or would she fall back to the shadowy confines of complacency, her dreams swallowed once again by someone else's ambition? Emily settled into the small desk at her home, a makeshift office cluttered with papers, blueprints, and her grandfather's old notes, a testament to someone whose vision had once illuminated her path. The contours of the pages echoed with whispers of hope, dreams, and scientific fervor, elements that had fueled countless innovations. She breathed deeply, feeling the weight of expectation, of possibility, pressing down on her. The glow of her laptop illuminated her face as she began to draft her proposal, positioning her grandfather's visions against the backdrop of Jack's empire. Words danced into coherent thoughts, reflections of her own aspirations intertwined with the rich legacy she felt deeply obligated to honor. This was her moment, no longer overshadowed, yet stepping forward into the light of her potential. However, doubt lingered like an unwelcome guest, nudging her thoughts in a different direction. Would Jack truly embrace her vision? Could she transform not just the technology but their entire partnership? Every time she considered presenting this new direction, she was haunted by the potential rejection she might face, a repetition of past experiences when her ideas had been silenced. Still, there was a desperation to her ambition, a scream beneath the surface that demanded to be heard. As she typed, She found clarity in the clutter. Each keystroke built a mosaic of innovation that reflected not only her grandfather's ideals, but also her newfound resolve to claim her voice. She wanted to create a product that would redefine industries, to break barriers established by men who underestimated her not because of her capabilities, but due to their preconceived notions of gender and authority. She owed it to her grandfather, and she owed it to herself. Throughout the evening, Emily transformed fear into calculated determination. The proposal took shape as she outlined technological breakthroughs entwined with innovative marketing strategies that could reinvigorate public interest and set their company apart. With each point she refined, she began to visualize the reaction from Jack in the boardroom. She could almost taste the sweet satisfaction of seeing understanding blossom in their skeptical expressions. Just as the clock struck midnight, fatigue wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. She leaned back, staring at the screen, the words a testament to her struggle and growth. But instead of relief, a simmering anxiety gripped her. The proposal was a reflection of her dreams, of her grandfather's spirit. But was she ready for the storm it might unleash? Her instincts pushed her to prepare for battle, for the certainty that the boardroom would resist change, especially from her. In that moment of uncertainty, a resolute thought pierced through the fog. She would not just present her ideas, she would own them. If Jack could not accept the union of his vision and her innovation, perhaps it was time to reevaluate their partnership. With dawn breaking outside her window, casting warm rays across her scattered notes, she felt a shift, a metamorphosis occurring within her. She was no longer just the woman behind the scenes. She was becoming the architect of her own destiny. She needed to confront Jack, not as his assistant but as a formidable player in the game they played together. The following day, as she prepared for the confrontation, a flicker of fear rippled through her. Embracing it, Emily steadied herself. This moment was destined for change. Could she dismantle the foundations of complacency built by years of submission? As she gathered her materials to leave for the boardroom, her heart pounded fiercely, fueled by a fervent need for freedom, both personal and professional. The moment she had been waiting for had arrived. Would Jack be able to recognize the potential in not only her proposal, but also her as a formidable leader? The impending confrontation loomed large, shadows of doubt mingling with her growing confidence. Just beneath the surface lay the knowledge that this would be the test of everything she had worked toward, and as she reached for the door, the question burned in her mind. What would happen when she finally unveiled her true potential? Emily's heart raced as she stepped into the boardroom, the sleek glass walls providing an unsettling sense of exposure. She could feel Jack's eyes on her, alongside the skeptical gazes of the board members, all men who had been entrenched in their comfort zones for far too long. Would they see her as a threat or an ally? The answer felt poised on the edge of her tongue, yet she fought to stabilize her nerves. She took a deep breath, grounding herself in the knowledge that she had transformed her fears into a well-crafted proposal. This was not merely a collection of ideas, it was her manifesto of change, the inheritance of her grandfather's vision, stitched together with her own aspirations and innovations. She spread the documents across the polished table, signaling that she was ready to initiate a conversation, not to ask for permission but to demand consideration. "Thank you all for being here today," Emily began, her voice steady. Jack sat across from her, initially appearing disinterested, but she saw the flicker of curiosity in his eyes. This was the moment to break through to him, to show him that her passion could drive results that aligned with his empire's legacy. As she moved through her presentation, Emily embraced the assertive stance she had rehearsed countless times. Each proposed breakthrough was met with a blend of intrigue and skepticism, drawing nods from some and raised brows from others. Yet the longer she spoke, the more the atmosphere began to shift. Something inside her ignited, a fiery determination that flooded her veins. She was not merely presenting data, she was articulating a vision for the future. She referenced case studies that highlighted successful shifts in industry paradigms, emphasizing how other companies had rewarded bold moves with immense growth. Innovation requires a willingness to embrace discomfort, she declared, her conviction growing stronger. If we cling to the status quo, we will be left behind. Jack finally leaned forward, arms crossed, an expression of intrigue etched on his face. And what makes you think this will work, Emily? What if it fails? It was a question she had anticipated, a calculated challenge meant to reinforce his authority. Instead of shying away, she stepped forward, locking eyes with him. I've spent years analyzing market trends and consumer needs. I know that what we have is worthy of pushing boundaries. We owe it to ourselves and to the industry to dare. Her words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of truth and defiance. The room fell silent. Emily could sense the shift, Jack's skepticism waning, the board members murmuring in the background as they exchanged glances. Then came the moment she had secretly feared, the sharp edge of doubt knifing through her confidence. What if she had read the room wrong? What if her vision was torn to shreds before her very eyes? But she clamped down on that thought, reminding herself of the metamorphosis she had experienced. Emily, Jack's voice erupted, cutting through her thoughts. You are presenting an ambitious proposal, but ambition isn't enough. Numbers, results, are what drive our success. I need to see concrete plans, not just ideas shiny with rhetoric. Each syllable spurred her to think quickly. It was the challenge she needed, one she would not back down from. I can outline a phased implementation strategy that mitigates risk, Jack. If we initiate this as a pilot program, we can reduce exposure and iterate based on feedback. Her heart pounded as his gaze softened slightly, recognition glimmering within it. Would he acknowledge her capability? Did she have enough conviction to change the course of their partnership? As Jack leaned back, pensive, the moment stretched like an elastic band about to snap. She was on the precipice. She could almost sense the inevitability of change within reach. But before the silence could crystallize into an answer, the air thickened with tension and pressing uncertainty clawed at her insides. Would the momentum shift in her favor, or was she standing on the brink of failure? Her next words could either elevate her vision or plunge it back into shadows. Jack, she said, her resolve imbuing each word with steely clarity. By embracing this strategy, we not only seize the moment, we redefine our place in history. Are you ready to take that leap with me? The question lingered in the air, laden with possibilities that threatened to collapse under the weight of expectation. What would Jack choose? The tension in the boardroom hung like a thick fog, suffocating yet charged with a palpable electricity. Emily held her breath, waiting for Jack's answer to drift through the silence that enveloped them. The air felt heavy with possibility. As Jack stared at her, she searched his face for any sign of what was to come, approval or derision. Each second felt elongated, stretching her resolve to its limit. But instead of crumbling under the pressure, a quiet strength surged within her. She tapped into the months of preparation, the sleepless nights spent fine-tuning her proposal, and the emotional weight of her grandfather's legacy resting squarely on her shoulders. With an affirming nod, Jack replied, I'm intrigued by your approach, Emily, but let's be clear. Your numbers have to match your ambitions. Consider this your first real test. His words ignited something in her, awakening a fierce drive. She recognized that this was not merely a financial pitch. It was a doorway that could lead to her rightful place in an industry dominated by voices that had drowned out women for generations. She could feel the world of possibility unfurling before her like a canvas awaiting the stroke of a brush, ready for her to create a masterpiece. Absolutely, Emily responded, marshaling her excitement into a focused determination. I'll bring a comprehensive proposal with clear metrics and a detailed timeline to follow. This will not just showcase innovation, but also demonstrate its feasibility. Jack's gaze sharpened, signaling both a challenge and a recognition of her potential. The board members were glancing at one another, likely surprised by the unexpected exchange. She could almost hear the wheels turning in their minds, memories of days spent in industry stagnation giving way to the hopefulness that her ideas sparked. After the presentation, Emily followed Jack to his office, the gravity of their conversation echoing in her ears. Once the door slid shut, the space felt intimate, and the air bristled with unspoken expectations. She could sense that Jack was still considering the weight her calculated aspirations could bring to the company's future. "Let's discuss this pilot program further," he said, his tone spiked with authority but infused with newfound curiosity. "Tell me how you'll validate your metrics." As they delved deeper into charts and benchmarks, she realized that this was not only about convincing him of her capabilities, it was also about affirming her place within her own professional narrative. Emily's confidence grew with each point she articulated. She mapped out consumer engagement strategies and retention rates, infusing her analysis with insights he'd likely never encountered in the male-dominated discussions he'd always known. It was exhilarating. Every technical detail she shared built her credibility and carved illusory barriers of doubt into mere shadows. They spent hours discussing the broader implications her program could have, how it could elevate the brand not merely in procedure, but in perception. But amid the rising adrenaline of collaboration, doubts began to creep in yet again, scuttling like shadows out of her line of vision. Was she truly prepared for the expectations this set upon her? What if she couldn't deliver? An unshakable thought nagged at her, a fear of failure that gnawed at the edges of her bravery. As the conversation wound down, Jack, no longer just her superior but an ally in this budding endeavor, finished with a sober observation. "This is uncharted territory, Emily. You are taking on a major responsibility. The risk is yours as much as it is mine." The weight of his words landed squarely on her shoulders, a reminder that her success would rest on her ability to execute her plan flawlessly. She nodded, swallowing her uncertainty. "Then I will ensure it's a risk worth taking," she affirmed, her voice imbued with newfound conviction. As they parted ways, a sense of momentum propelled her forward, the exhilaration of possibility swirling around her. Yet, as Emily sat at her desk late that night, the glow of her computer screen illuminating her focused expression, she couldn't help but wonder if she was truly prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. With a steely resolve, she opened a new document, not just to outline the specifics of her plan but to articulate her fears, her visions against the tide of doubt, pressing the keys with firm determination. But amidst the strategy, thumbnails of visions and plans, something compelled her to pause. What hidden challenges awaited her not just from Jack and the board, but from her own heart? As the clock ticked on, she realized that her journey was only beginning, teetering between ambition and the weight of unacknowledged vulnerabilities. The breeze from the window whispered a reminder, a last thought before sleep. What part of yourself are you willing to confront in this partnership? She leaned back, wondering if she would have the courage to uncover all facets of who she could be. A resolute smile flickered over her lips. The next decision was hers alone, and whatever awaited her, she was ready to face it, head on. Would she emerge from the shadows of her self-doubt unscathed, or would the true trials begin now that the spotlight was finally on her? Emily woke the next morning, the lingering question of her capability and unwelcome guest at the forefront of her mind. Overnight, the worries had woven themselves into a tapestry of intricate patterns, each strand colored with doubt, hope, and an urgency to prove herself. She took a deep breath, resolving to channel that whirlwind into action. Today was about strategy. It was a chance to transform her ideas into tangible plans. In the office, the atmosphere buzzed with energy as colleagues discussed the upcoming product launch, eyes glinting with ambition. Emily entered the fold, head held high, catching snippets of conversation that spurred her resolve. She couldn't afford to get lost in the noise. As she settled at her desk, the stack of documents beckoned, a concrete reminder of the task that lay ahead. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, meticulously detailing every aspect of her proposal. She interspersed empirical data with persuasive narrative, harmonizing the cold facts with a vision that felt both daring and necessary. Every word breathed life into her goals, crafting a compelling story that would resonate. But the deeper she delved into her work, the more the weight of Jack's earlier words echoed in her thoughts. The knowledge that failure loomed as a specter with every keystroke made her pause yet again. "I need feedback," she murmured to herself, her voice barely rising above the hum of the office. Seeking validation, she decided to reach out to Tom, a trusted colleague known for his insightful critiques. As she approached his desk, she could feel the nervous energy surging within her, the doubt momentarily eclipsed by the need for collaboration. "Hey, Tom, can I get your take on something?" she asked, heart racing with anticipation. Tom raised his eyebrows, curiosity piqued. "Sure, what's up?" She spread her proposal across his desk, anxiety giving way to a surge of excitement as she began outlining her vision. With each point she presented, Tom nodded along, his expression shifting from intrigue to admiration. "This is solid, Emily. Really innovative," he said, a spark of encouragement lighting up his gaze. I want to make sure I'm pitching it right," she confessed, her cheeks flushing. "Jack said the stakes are high." Tom leaned back in his chair, contemplating. "You're hitting all the right notes, but what's your gut feeling about the numbers? Are they realistic?" His question sliced through her bravado, peeling back the layers of certitude she had carefully built around her proposal. The numbers, while carefully curated, began to swirl in her mind, transforming into a murky fog of uncertainty. Had she miscalculated? I think... Yes?" she stammered, feeling a tightness in her chest. "I've run several scenarios, but don't second-guess yourself. Trust the work you've put in," he reassured her. But it was too late. Doubt lodged itself firmly within her mind, a disconcerting reminder of her vulnerability. She returned to her desk, inner turmoil brewing. What if Jack challenged her on the figures? What if she was unfit for the mantle she'd taken up? Spurred by an urgent desire to prepare, Emily pored over market trends, revising her data as the hours slipped by. She craved unshakable confidence, evidence that her numbers were not just achievable but exceptional. Her analytical nature took over, drowning out the cacophony of anxiety that raced through her head. Just as she finalized a critical forecast, her phone buzzed. A message from Jack rolled in. "Let's meet tomorrow to review your proposal. Prepare to discuss any adjustments in detail." The chill of anticipation swept through her, and a new wave of fear surged. This was not just another meeting. It was a stage set for judgment. Emily ran her fingers through her hair, exhaling slowly. She could feel the pressure intensifying, the stakes rising higher than before. With a newfound intensity, she steeled herself. How could she reshape this fear into a driving force? What bold moves would fortify her position? The days ahead promised to unravel the complexities of her heart and mind, daring her to transform fear into empowerment. Her phone pinged again, a reminder of her meeting with Jack. One thought rattled through her mind as she prepared to leave for the day. Was she ready? Not just for a pitch, but to assert her true self amidst the looming challenges. With a resolve solidifying in her chest, she prepared for that pivotal moment. She was no longer just a participant in the game. She was determined to master her narrative, for better or worse. And as she stepped into the world outside, she couldn't shake the burning question. What if the greatest risk was not the numbers, but the unveiling of her true potential? The morning of the meeting dawned, casting a stream of light through Emily's window, illuminating her determination. She had hardly slept, her mind churning like a turbulent sea. Every projection she had crafted was etched in her thoughts, while varying scenarios unfolded depicting the possible reactions of Jack. Today was not merely about numbers. It was a test of her identity. Arriving at the office, Emily took a moment to draw in a steadying breath. The familiar scent of brewed coffee mingled with the rustling of papers and the low hum of bustling employees. Today felt different. With each step toward Jack's office, her vision narrowed to the task at hand, yet her heart raced, a reminder of the stakes involved. As she entered Jack's office, she gathered her papers, her proposal smoothed out perfectly, a reflection of her clarity and intent. Jack looked up, his expression inscrutable. "Emily," he greeted, motioning for her to take a seat. There was an unspoken tension that hung in the air. "Thanks for meeting with me," she started, her voice steady but her insides quaked with unease. Jack nodded, still focused on the document sprawled across his desk. "Let's see what you've laid out." With a slight tremor in her hands, she presented her proposal, articulating the reasoning behind each point while comfortably engaging Jack in dialogue. The early moments were pivotal. His feedback was crucial, but so was his perception. Every nod and furrowed brow registered with her like a heartbeat, and she grew conscious of how much she needed to convey strength. As Jack scrutinized the numbers, a few minutes of silent analysis felt like eons. An abrupt pause ensued that set her heart racing. He had stopped nodding. "These projections are optimistic," he noted, meeting her gaze. "Do you genuinely believe they are achievable?" The question pierced through her defenses. "Yes. I believe that with the right strategies and a solid marketing push, we can exceed these projections," she replied, the confidence in her tone surprising even herself. Jack looked impressed yet skeptical. "Give it to me straight, Emily. What if we can't meet these projections?" The scrutiny in his eyes felt like a spotlight, amplifying her vulnerability. She hesitated. What if her previous doubts resurfaced at this moment of truth? Yet, as the silence stretched, she decided to confront that fear directly. "Everything in business has a level of risk. If we play it too safe, we'll miss opportunities. I believe these are attainable goals with the market trends backing us up." A brief silence followed. Jack studied her intently, and the weight of his assessment pressed down on her. He spoke, and every word felt charged with consequence. "You have conviction, Emily. That's important. But I need you to refine these numbers, make them bulletproof. We cannot afford guesswork." She nodded, unwavering. "I will. I'll revise them with the latest market insights. I'll ensure each figure stands on its own." The meeting transitioned into a collaborative discussion, their tension diffusing with nearly every exchange. Jack laid out additional insights, and Emily absorbed his critiques, adapting to his high expectations. Each piece of feedback he gave was another stepping stone in her professional growth, intertwining her ambitions with reality. As they wrapped up, Jack leaned back in his chair, a measure of respect emerging through his usual seriousness. "You're onto something, Emily. Just remember, leadership requires not only vision, but adaptability." The encouragement felt like a flame kindled, igniting her determination further. "Thank you for the feedback, Jack. I won't let you down," she affirmed, her voice steady with resolve. Walking out of the office, Emily felt a surge of empowerment. She had faced her fears and emerged with enhanced clarity on her path ahead. But beneath her confidence lingered a new level of awareness. The real challenge lay not just in executing a successful project, but in continuously evolving as a leader. Sinking into her work, a thought began to form. What if her proposal was only the beginning? What else could she uncover within herself and her capabilities? As she delved back into numbers, a pulse of curiosity thrummed through her veins, whispering about unexplored potential. The question lingered. Could she transform this experience into something greater than she ever imagined? Her journey was just beginning, and she was ready to discover where her courage would lead her next. With the sun dipping low in the afternoon sky, Emily found herself immersed in the analytical labyrinth of marketing projections and competitive strategies, a world she was beginning to inhabit with newfound confidence. Each number on her spreadsheet told a story, an unfolding narrative she was determined to author with precision and foresight. Yet, amid her numerical reverie, the echoes of Jack's voice lingered, reminding her of the respect and expectations that cradled her developing leadership. She clicked the submit button on her most recent draft, feeling the pulse of adrenaline course through her veins. Instead of feeling relief, a deeper sense of urgency propelled her forward. That moment in Jack's office had ignited something within her, a relentless hunger to do more, to delve deeper into the realms of data that informed their market strategy. She wasn't just tightening figures, she was embarking on an exploration of her capabilities. Tinkering with her proposal had unveiled a new dimension of herself, where risk was not merely a gamble, but a calculated adventure. The resonance of her earlier conviction urged her on. With the right strategies, she could turn hopeful projections into tangible achievements. A voice interrupted her concentration, familiar yet tinged with tension. Claire, her colleague, poked her head into Emily's cubicle, eyes darting nervously. Hey, can we talk? You're not going to believe what's happening with the campaign team. Emily studied Claire's face, an amalgamation of uncertainty and excitement. Sure, what's going on? Claire stepped closer, lowering her voice. There's been some chatter about Jack reshuffling the team structure. Apparently, he's looking for someone to spearhead a brand new initiative aimed at repositioning our flagship product. An opportunity to lead, she whispered, her brows raised in disbelief. Emily's heart raced at the thought. Being at the helm of a major project could accelerate her journey tremendously, but she instinctively felt the undertow of trepidation threatening to pull her back. But do you think I'm ready for something like this? I mean, this is Jack we're talking about, she questioned, probing her own hesitations. Emily, you've just made a significant leap with that presentation. This could be your time to shine, Claire urged, her enthusiasm palpable. No one's ever simply given an opportunity like that, especially with someone like Jack at the reins. It's always about proving yourself, Emily responded, a wave of self-doubt washing over her. Exactly. And you just did that, Claire replied, an intensity lighting her eyes. It's all about how you frame it. You can create your own path here. Don't let fear dictate your decisions. At that moment, clarity began to crystallize within Emily. Claire's words struck a chord, echoing the insight Jack had offered. Leadership required adaptability as much as it did vision. If she wanted to evolve, she had to seize the moment instead of waiting for permission to believe in herself. All right, I'm going for it, Emily declared, her heart knocking against her chest, resonating with the burgeoning resolve. She would discuss this potential lead with Jack, framing the opportunity around her recent insights. She envisioned sugaring her proposal with statistics fused with a bold strategy, but as she turned towards her computer, preparing to formulate her plan, a suffocating thought arose. What if she faltered? What if the meeting unveiled her inadequacies instead of her aptitudes? The confrontation with those uncertainties loomed in her mind, something she would have to face head-on. In that swirling nexus of apprehension and ambition, Emily realized that real growth often lies outside the bounds of comfort. Her heart thrummed with the thrill of what awaited. As the evening settled in and the office deserted, she stayed anchored to her desk, plotting her next move, aware that every step she forged ahead would be laden with its own challenges. This path was becoming clearer now. The question remained, however, could she confront the confines of her doubts and embrace this call to lead? The approaching meeting with Jack became a defining crossroads, a moment where her true potential would either be crystallized or countered by her insecurities. The stakes had never been higher, and the time had come for Emily to face herself and the shadows of uncertainty lingering in her pursuit of growth. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across her workspace, Emily's fingers flew across the keyboard, constructing her proposal with a clarity that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. She could still hear Claire's enthusiastic insistence resonating in her mind. Create your own path. Don't let fear dictate your decisions. The mantra became her rallying cry, propelling her to encapsulate not just numbers but a vision, a narrative capable of reshaping her entire professional landscape. She recalled Jack's earlier feedback on her last presentation. It had been a mixture of praise and pointed criticism, the kind that pushed her. You need to own your ideas, Emily, he had said, his steady gaze uncomfortably penetrating. Don't just present data. Tell me how we can innovate, how we can lead. Each word had ignited something fierce within her, compelling her to turn her analytical insights into compelling strategies. This time, she would embrace that challenge. As she drafted her proposal, the words spilled forth, vibrant and persuasive. She envisioned a brand strategy that not only repositioned their flagship product, but reinvented its very identity in the market. She entwined her analytical projections with innovative solutions, interactive campaigns that could burgeon on social media platforms targeting younger demographics, emphasizing the product's unique benefits. There was urgency in every trend she analyzed, and a breathless excitement bubbled within her for what they could achieve. But with that enthusiasm came a nagging doubt. Was she really ready to lead an initiative that could either elevate or devastate the company's reputation? What if, in her ambition, she overlooked a flaw in her plan? The pressure of impending judgment loomed. It didn't matter how many positive affirmations Claire had given her. What would Jack think? Emily abruptly halted her typist's rhythm, leaning back in her chair to wrestle with her racing thoughts. Claire had framed her earlier uncertainty as an opportunity. But what if this was truly a test of her competence, one she might fail? Could she transform every ounce of fear into a platform for innovation? Could she step into the very spotlight she had always shied away from? The murmurs of the empty office amplified her internal battle. A voice reminded her that she had already taken significant steps forward. She had proven herself capable with that last presentation. Jack had pushed her to harness her potential, and this was her moment to attach actions to words. Determined, she pulled up additional data from previous campaigns. She scrutinized their highs and lows, searching for patterns. Emily was now wrestling with uncertainty and competition, but she leaned into the fear rather than backing down. Identifying weaknesses in their previous strategies, she drafted fresh ideas, strategies that would not only secure clientele but would also resonate on a personal level, showcasing the brand's human side. Each data point she analyzed now felt like a puzzle piece clicking into place, crafting a narrative that would grasp Jack's full attention. Her heart swelled with newfound confidence. She was not merely preparing for a presentation. She was on the brink of reshaping her entire career. With one last glance at her watch, she noted the late hour. The office lights flickered, casting a stark glow in the dim atmosphere. Was she ready? The quiet of the office had transformed the mundane into a crucible of potential and peril. As she finalized her proposal, the reality of her upcoming meeting with Jack loomed over her, a tempest of expectation and aspiration. What if she not only delivered her proposal, but also ignited a fire within her team? What if, instead of querying her competency, Jack recognized her ability to lead? The thought sent shivers down her spine. The stakes were real, and they were illuminated by the glow of her computer screen. As she saved the document, a final wave of trepidation washed over her. It was time for the discussion that could either crystallize her future or return her to the shadows of self-doubt. She was ready to face Jack, but not just for the job. She was prepared to encompass a deeper journey, one that entwined her identity with her ambitions. The meeting could redefine everything for her. Yet as she turned off her computer, the question remained. Would she emerge as a confident leader, or would the weight of expectations drag her under? In that moment before sleep claimed her, Emily knew she would have to face the reality of her choices, and the time had come. Emily stepped into the boardroom with a blend of exhilaration and trepidation, the weight of the moment palpable. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation as she adjusted the papers in her grasp, each one representing not just data, but the unequivocal proof of her evolution. Gone were the days of cautious submission. She was here to assert her place in Jack's empire, beginning with this pivotal proposal. Jack and the board settled into their seats, the polished mahogany table gleaming under the bright lights. Their eyes were fixed on her, an amalgam of skepticism mixed with curiosity. She could feel the pressure concentrating around her like a tightening vice, yet she held firm. Today was the day she would leap into the hero's role of her own narrative. "Thank you for gathering today," Emily began, her voice steady and clear. "I'm excited to share my proposal for repositioning our flagship product, a move aimed at not only revitalizing our brand but also steering it toward future growth." As she detailed her strategy, the narrative flowed seamlessly from one idea to the next. Charts illustrating market trends and consumer insights punctuated her story, breathing life into her vision. She had spent countless hours refining every metric, meticulously ensuring that each projection was not just optimistic but grounded in reality. The board listened, and slowly, she could see the flicker of intrigue spark in their eyes. Jack leaned forward, interest etched on his features. "You're presenting some ambitious projections here, Emily. What mitigative strategies are in place if we encounter pushback when launching this initiative?" This was where she would transform the support she had garnered from her colleagues into solid justification for Jack's concerns. "What is critical is the adaptability of our campaign. Implementing customer feedback loops to refine our messaging in real time, along with market analytics, will allow us to pivot swiftly in response to consumer reaction. The room fell silent. Emily felt the momentum shift. Her confidence rippled through her. She was no longer speaking on behalf of Jack's vision. This was becoming her own, crafted from lessons learned and the legacy of her grandfather's ambition that she carried with her. With each point she articulated, she wove in a personal narrative, the weight of her journey. I've had the privilege of working closely with our team and analyzing trends that resonate with our clientele. This isn't just a strategic pivot, it's a chance for me to contribute meaningfully to an industry that often sidelines innovative voices. She felt a rush of empowerment claim her. A murmur spread throughout the room, and she caught Jack's gaze, which held something that felt dangerously close to admiration. It was a flicker of recognition for the fire she had unearthed within herself, emerging from the cocoon of obscurity. Did he see that she had not only turned a proposal into a strategic framework, but had wrapped it in her essence? Now we need to look at results, Jack said, his tone definitive as he considered the board members' expressions. I want tangible indicators of success before we initiate internal discussions. Emily, you need to prepare a detailed risk assessment for this project. A calm washed over her. She welcomed the challenge. Absolutely, Jack. I'll expand on our projections with clear metrics that outline both potential gains and risks. She felt exhilarated, not threatened, by the expectation now. This was a critical turning point. As the meeting progressed, Jack continued to engage her directly. They debated potential hurdles, calculated necessary resources, and considered the timeline for implementation. Emily could sense the palpable shift. She wasn't just pushing against the glass ceiling, she was shattering it. When the session wrapped up, Jack addressed her with genuine respect. I appreciate your insight today, Emily. You've proven your readiness to lead. Let's reevaluate where we can channel your strengths within the company moving forward. Walking out of that boardroom, Emily felt a rebirth, a tangible metamorphosis that had taken place not just in her professional demeanor, but within her very identity. She had claimed her space not merely as an employee, but as an innovator with a vision. This wasn't simply about the proposal she had delivered. It represented months of fierce determination, layered in every keystroke, every doubt, and every moment she had reclaimed from complacency. As she sank into her desk chair later that evening, the mundane clutter around her felt brighter, brimming with possibility. She had transitioned from the background into an empowered role, ready to guide not just the project, but the strategic direction of her career. Emily understood that true leadership meant not just carrying others' dreams. It meant crafting and owning one's own narrative. She was proud, perhaps for the first time, but not in a self-serving way. The pride surged from her deep-seated recognition of her journey. She had harnessed her fears and transformed them into a tangible campaign of success. The next chapter of her life lay ahead, and it was ripe with potential. After those significant revelations, it was time to take action. Emily picked up her phone, heart racing, and sent a message to her closest friends, sharing the news of her breakthrough. They had been part of her supportive circle all along, and she was ready to invite them into this new chapter and achievement. This was her moment. She had conquered her fears, embraced her legacy, and established herself with undeniable confidence. She was not just an assistant. Emily Johnson had become a leader, and she staked her place at the forefront of innovation. Now she would need to not only maintain her momentum, but also continuously inspire others to seek their own transformative paths. Don't wait even one more second. You need to subscribe now for more exclusive emotional stories that will captivate your heart. Leave a like now to boost our reach. Your support makes all the difference. Comment below your thoughts and predictions about Emily's journey. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need a dose of inspiration. This is the moment to show you understand the power of personal overcoming stories.